Jolt is a global edtech company specializing in the tech industry. We offer live, online, hands-on workshop and short courses led by industry experts from top companies, enabling anyone to upskill, reskill, or launch a new technological career. Jolt's program and workshops have been delivered with notable partners such as the UK government, the Israeli Innovation Authority, and various universities and colleges worldwide. We are pleased we are pleased to have Jolt as our partners at UPES. Now, allow me to welcome my colleagues from UPS and Jolt. We have with us Ms. Rachel Karyak joining us from Jolt. Rachel is a course and global project manager at Jolt. In her role, Rachel goes the extra mile to offer students in educational institutions a complete package that includes personalized operational support, guidance, and pedagogical development. Welcome to you, Rachel, to the session. We also have with us Dr. Prasoom from UPS. I'm sure some of you might have had attended sessions from our UPS faculty, Dr. Prasoom, in this ongoing bridge journey. I also have my colleague, Mr. Anuj from administration's team, who will be supporting during the Q&A at the end of the session. Now, let me share a bit about esteemed speaker for today's session and faculty, Mr. Alex Shilman. Alex is a behavioral economist and product expert. Alex is a founder and chief behavioral officer at the Human Factor. He works with startups and innovation teams on cracking behavioral challenges and building product and services that fit irrational users. Alex is a partner in Newgate Capital and also an early stage VC. He's a frequent keynote speaker and writes regularly about behavioral economics at The Marker. Alex holds a BA in psychology and economics and MA in decision making. A very warm welcome to you, Alex, to our session today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting me. It's a pleasure and an honor for me. I hope that I will at least fuel your curiosity about behavioral economics so you can go and discover by your own. But let's try together. Let me share our presentation for today. We will discuss some practical aspects of behavioral economics, which is academic field of knowledge, which became very applied in the recent 10, 15 years. So I will try to share with you as much as possible of applying knowledge along with the theory and the smart words behind it. So behavioral economics, what really drives your users, not just users, your partners, your customers, your boss, your employee, whatever. If it's a Homo sapiens, probably those are the rules that will drive their behavior. So let's start with an example. Imagine that you are walking at a beautiful MIT grass fields in the States, and a couple of students of Professor Ariely offer you a simple choice. You can have a Lindor chocolate for 15 cents or a 1 cent Hershey Kiss. That's the choice. You cannot have them both. Here in Israel, we love to have both options all the time. You can't have it here. You have to choose either the 15 cents Lindor or either the 1 cent Hershey Kiss. And most of the participants prefer the 15 cents Lindor. Why? It's just a better deal. It's much better deal. It's a better chocolate. It's a great price. Most of the people able to calculate quickly that this is a better deal. But this wasn't the actual experiment. It was just the benchmark. The actual experiment happened right after, when another group of students getting very similar choice, but with 1 cent discount. Now the choice is between 14 cents Lindor and a free Hershey Kiss. So it's exactly the same choice and the same gap in prices, but let's say in absolute matters, it's different prices. This is free and this one is 14 cents. Economically speaking, there is no difference. People still should prefer 14 cents Lindor, but out of sudden, most of the students prefer the free Hershey Kiss. They not use the same rule of choice as they used just a moment ago when it was 1 cent versus 15 cents. Let me show you the statistics. On the left, we see the first scenario when it's a 15 cents Lindor and 1 cent Hershey. Most of the people quickly realize that the Lindor is a better deal. And once the Hershey Kiss became free, almost the same number, almost the same percentage out of sudden prefer the free Hershey Kiss. Why? Because we are irrational, because we don't actually make equations and calculate the maximum value. We operate with very simple rules of thumb. And actually, this save us. Let me explain why. But those rules of thumb sometimes force us to make a mistake, economical mistake, rational mistake. And those mistakes are a great, powerful tool that you can use. So let me show you the difference between Homo economicus, which is the rational thinking creature, which economic books popularized by those agents that always try to maximize their profit, those agents that always know what's the better deal, and actual humans like me, like you, like Homer Simpson. For those of you who are not familiar with Homer Simpson, this is a cartoon character, kind of ultimate Danny. Let's call it that. And it's not just a joke. When the Nobel Prize Committee called Richard Thaler, Professor Thaler, and they announced him as a Nobel Prize winner for 2017, they asked him what would he suggest to print in tomorrow newspapers about his discoveries in behavioral economics. So he thought for a few seconds and he said, imagine that your client is Homer Simpson and make the world safe place for Homer Simpson. Why? Because most of the time, all of us operate on our autopilot. We don't invest rational thinking. We don't invest too much logical thinking in everyday questions. We just operate on the autopilot. Thank God this is what happens. Otherwise, we will collapse. It's just too many decisions to make every day. We make every day 35,000 decisions in the Western world. We expose to 4.500 million different pieces of information every single day. That's too much. So we have to rely on our internal cognitive autopilot. We psychologists call it system one thinking. You can call it intuition, you can call it gut feeling, you can call it autopilot. It doesn't matter. What matters is the main point that most of the time we own our internal autopilot. And that's why there are irrational behaviors. Economics. So behavioral economics is a psychology moved into economic thinking, moved into advertisement, moved into consultancy, moved into pricing, etc., etc. How can we leverage psychology in economic thinking? This is what behavioral economics are about. I'm Alex. I'm a psychologist. Don't worry, not the scary kind. I'm not doing therapy, although I really encourage you to try some. But this is not my passion. I'm a social psychologist, which means that my profession is the intersection between the surrounding world and our decisions, how the world affects our decisions. And though this is what behavioral economics is basically about, how the change in price or how the color of the product or our temperature of the bottle affect the decision of your customer. In the daily life, I consult companies like Microsoft, HP, Asurian, startups, innovation teams, VC funds, And I will try today to share with you as much as possible from my everyday experience of using behavioral economics to change actual behavioral in the field. Please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box. I will stop every few minutes and try to address your questions. So please feel free. I will be very happy to read your questions. So let's continue. First bias for today. First effect, if you wish, reciprocity effect. So imagine that you're running a business, a family business, a car wash business, and you want your clients to come again and again because you make much more money when you have repeating clients compared to just once in a while. So you are inventing a loyalty program. You're printing cards with a place for stamps on it. And after your client visit 8 times, you give them the 9th visit for free. So this is a very simple, very common loyalty program. Now, you wonder what option of the graphic design will work better. Is it the one on the left with just plain, straightforward 8 stamps, so the 9th will be for free, or the one on the right, which is 10 stamps, so it seems like you have to collect 10 visits and the 11th will be for free, but the 2 of them stamped already. So basically it's exactly the same promotion, right? 8 visits, but it looks differently. On the left, it's very simple. You can see right away that the 9th visit will be for free. On the right, the journey looks longer, but you have 2 visits for free, stamped for you already. So you try to realize, to understand, to guess actually, which one will work better. So let me tell you, try to think for your own, which one would you prefer if it was your business? Let me show you the results. The one on the right works 70% better. That's a crazy number. 70% increase in sales, that's priceless. Businesses pay many thousands of dollars for a tiny increase in sales. 70% increase, that's unreal. It's like a magic. Why? Because of the reciprocity effect. What's the reciprocity effect is about? So let me define it. When one of the sides in the relationship, any kind of relationship, romantic relationship, service provider and client relationship, like here with the car wash, one of the sides making a gesta, a surprising gesta towards the other side feels strong motivation to be engaged, to invest back. So in our particular scenario, when you give your clients a card with 10 stamps, but 2 of them, you give them for free, you stamp for them, it feels like you worry about it, like you invested thinking, you invested attention to make their experience better. You trust them. So they feel stronger motivation to give back, to drive to your specific car wash again and again and again. 70% increase in sales just because of the difference in graphic design. Think about it. It costs nothing. It's just 5 minutes of graphic design, that's all. And you leverage all the knowledge of social psychology that waited for you on the shelf. So reciprocity effect, when you're making a surprising gesta, the other side feels strong motivation to be engaged, to give back. Let me give you an example. When you visit a Western restaurant and you're ordering the bill, so many times the waiter leaving for you tiny candies on the plate or postcards, small things, surprising things. Those tiny candies increase the average tip that you give to the waiter between 15 to 25%. Just two candies on the plate. 15 to 25%. Why? He thought about it. He invested in making my experience better. I want to give back. This is reciprocity effect. Very common, very easy to leverage. Almost every kind of business or consultancy or even SaaS company can easily leverage it for a good results. This was our first effect for today. We're gonna learn another 6 in the very, very narrow time that we have. So let's move quickly to the second effect. Second effect will be choice paralysis. This one was discovered by Barry Schwartz. Barry Schwartz is an American psychologist. He's one of the most significant psychologists in the 20th century. He has beautiful TED Talks. I encourage you go watch them later on. This one is one of his classic experiments. So again, imagine that you're at MIT University. Again, students of Professor Ariely offer you a choice, but this time, unfortunately, they don't have chocolate anymore. And not to mention free chocolate, like in the previous example, the one before. Today, they offer you to buy a jam, a regular jam, a can of jam. And the difference between the two scenarios is that in some days, you have a collection of 6 different tastes, variety of 6 different jams. So you have many, many, many cans, but you can split them into just 6 different tastes of jam. And they offer you to buy it in a good price, nothing special, but good price. And they actually gather the information how many gems people actually took home. In the second scenario, all exactly the same, besides the number of different tastes that you can choose from. On the second scenario, you have more than 18 different types of jam. And again, they want to see how many gems people actually buying and taking home. Try to think what scenario will convert more. Is it the one on the left, A, with less variety, or the one on the right with a wider variety, with more types? Let me show you the results. And just a second before I'm showing you the results, let me tell you something very important about behavioral economics. Sometimes you will have strong gut feeling what option work better, but almost never you will be able to guess how better it works. So the power of the effect will be very, very surprising most of the time. And let's see in this particular scenario what happened. So the one on the left worked better, option A. How much better? 1,000% better. 10 times more gems. That's a crazy number. That means that for every 100 students who stepped by option B, 3 of them bought the gem. For every 100 students who stopped by option A, 30 bought the gem. That's a crazy increase in sales. And again, how they achieve it? Just by narrowing down the number of options. Ladies and gentlemen, this is choice paralysis. Let's define choice paralysis. When our internal Homer Simpson, the autopilot, needs to decide with too many options, too many types, too much variety, it decides not to decide because it's just too difficult. So we experience paralysis. So for those students who stopped by option A, it was relatively easy to decide. Okay, 6 different tastes. That's not a very, very hard decision to make, right? Those who stopped by option B, it was too difficult to decide. 18 different tastes. That's You need your logic thinking for that, your rational thinking. You probably prefer not to turn on your logical thinking just for choosing a gem. It's not important enough, so you're just giving up. This is choice paralysis, one of the strongest effects in behavioral science. I need to physically fight with my clients to force them to lose some options in their offering. It doesn't matter if it's a coffee shop and I force them to make their menu smaller, less options on the menu, they sell more. Or if it's a digital company that offers 5 different plans, pricing plans, and I force them to offer only 3 plans every single time. When you're narrowing down the options, you sell more. Why? Because our internal autopilot having hard time to choose from many different options. And 95% of the time, remember, we are on our internal autopilot, as Richard Thaler told us in 2017. But this was even not the most amazing thing about the choice paralysis, because when the researchers, they went after those students who actually bought the gem, and they asked them, how do you like your gem? Are you satisfied with your decision? Was it a good choice? Those who bought it from option A was much more satisfied by their decisions. So it's not just about selling more, it's about your clients being much more satisfied by their choices. Why? This is the paradox of choice. So on the top of the choice paralysis, which is the first level, we have the paradox of choice. When you have less variety to choose from, you will be more satisfied with your choice. And actually, when you think about it, it makes sense. When you choose one gem from a variety of 6 gems, you gave up on 5 other tastes. That's not a terrible sacrifice, right? But when you choose one gem from a variety of 18, you gave up on 17 other tastes. That's a very difficult sacrifice to make. So first of all, when you offer less variety, you sell more. Second of all, your clients will be more satisfied because they have less FOMO. So this is choice paralysis and the paradox of choice on the top of that by Barry Schwartz. Our third effect for today, endowment effect. And this one specific, my favorite, because it was discovered by Richard Thaler. So the previous 2 were discovered by Danica Hanneman and Amos Tversky here in Israel. Endowment effect were discovered by Richard Thaler in Chicago University. And let me tell you how he illustrates the effect every single year for his students. So every year, he starts his class in behavioral economics at Chicago University with the same simulation. Let's call it a simulation or a kind of workshop. He brings to the class a package of coffee mags with the logo of university on it, which is a big issue for American students. And then he asks his teaching assistants to spread randomly, which is very important, the random assignment, to the half of the class, 3 coffee mags with the logo of the university on it. After a few minutes, half of the class are very happy. They just got it for free. Nice coffee mug with the logo of the university on it. The other half pissed off because for some reason they didn't. They don't have any presents from Richard Thaler. And then Richard offered them an opportunity to trade. So those of you who want to sell their coffee mug can sell. Those of you who want to buy can buy. My only request, please report me back the price that you sold your coffee mug or you bought it, your coffee mug. And the classic prediction of the economics will be the curve of the demand will meet the curve of the supply, and the invisible hand of the market will determine the right price for the coffee mug, right? That's the classic economic thinking. And every single year, there is a market fail in Richard Thaler's class. Almost no coffee mugs exchange hands. Why? because of the endowment effect. Because those who just got a free coffee mug, they willing to pay about $3. Those who don't get any coffee mugs, or those who just get a coffee mug, they want almost twice as much as those who didn't. For some reason, out of sudden, the class splits into two groups, two distinctive groups. Those who just got a free coffee mug, they value it at $7, and those who didn't, and they value it on $3 in average. So no wonder no coffee mugs exchange hands. There is a gap between the curves, between the supply and the demand. Why? Because of the endowment effect. Endowment effect, that's what happens when we have sense of ownership with something. When it's actually yours, or even if it's not yours, but it feels like yours. Never, doesn't matter. In both scenarios, you will overestimate the value of the product, the value of the service. Why? Just because it's yours. There are very good evolutionary reasons for such a effect, because we are great grandsons and daughters of those who kept their stuff and didn't fought for new things when they had enough of their own. So we still carry the same software, the same hardware, like many thousand years ago, but in a completely different world. So even today, when you have a sense of ownership, like those students who get a free coffee mug, you will overestimate the price. Very pretty similar to the statistics here, twice as much. You will overestimate times 2 regular price in average. Endowment effect. So how can you use it in today's market? Let me give you an example from one of my clients. It's a digital SaaS company. They provide a cybersecurity platform. So it's an interesting challenge, right? Because they have no presence in actual world. They have no tangible existence. They exist only in the digital world, on digital cloud platforms. So how can we leverage endowment effect? Very easy. They offer their clients a white paper about the market research with some interesting numbers, nice graphs, etc., which is very common. We ask the client before we gave them an opportunity to download that white paper. We ask the name of the client, and we print the name on the PDF itself. So it's not just a market research, it was made for Alex Shilman. So it feels like yours. And you know, logically, rationally, you're to understand that it wasn't. Maybe very soon AI will generate a special report for each one of us, but not yet. And still, when you have your name on it, it feels like more yours, like personalized. And we saw significant increase in conversion rates just because of printing the name of the person on the PDF white paper. So this is endowment effect. Let me give you another example of endowment effect. This is a classic American store, which called the Best Buy. We don't have such a big stores in Israel. I'm pretty much sure that you do have. And as you can feel, when you enter the store, two things happen. First thing is that it's very hard to make an actual choice because you have too many options, right? So you experience choice paralysis, like the previous effect. Second thing is that you have no opportunity to establish relationship with the product. And then small consumer electronics company entered the market and changed everything. And of course, this is Apple. Apple Store, the flagship store in the Fifth Avenue. They don't compete for your attention. Each one of the products has his own area in the store. So the iPhone won't compete with the Mac, and the Mac won't compete with the iPad, and the iPad won't compete with the iPod, right? So you don't have any choice paralysis. And on the top of that, they offer you an opportunity to play with the phone, to play with the computer. So after a few seconds of playing with it, you have a very strong sense of ownership. You feel like it's a bit yours. So you will overestimate the price of it. This is one of the reasons why Apple managed to sell their products in a premium price, because they let you to establish an actual honest and true connection with their products. Actually, I still remember my first time when I stumbled upon such a effect. Let's say it was in Atlantic City in the west coast of US, and we spent all of our money by the Trump's casino there, which ran out of the business just a bit later. And we entered the store with no money at all. So we couldn't buy, even if we want, we couldn't buy anything there. But I was shocked that they let me to play with that beautiful piece of technology that just came out. It was 2009, I think. So it was the second iPhone. It was still a big thing. And we actually took a photo of ourselves in the store and sent it via email to our friends in Israel. So first of all, my cybersecurity awareness wasn't evolved too much back then. Don't do it. Second of all, if I had any money, I would pay for it because I felt connected with the product. So this is endowment effect by Richard Thaler. This effect is one of the reasons he got Nobel Prize. It was mentioned in Nobel Committee explanation why they choose Richard Thaler. One of the reasons because of the endowment effect. Let's see. So someone else asks, who gives this kind of ideas to a company? Do they hire psychologists or this is a work of consultant? That's a great question. So it took very long time until the business world actually started to adopt different kind of tools from psychology. So today, there are few ways how business actually adopt such tools. First of all, is in-house psychologist, in-house behavioral scientist. It's called applied behavioral science. So IKEA, Lego, Starbucks, Disney, Netflix, and many other companies has their own internal psychology team. But this is relatively new thing. For many years, it was done, but just by partisan consultancy. That some CEO were asking his friends, did they have good idea, and they were consulting him. If you're interested about the historical development of this, you should Google Paco Underhill. Paco Underhill. He was one of the first social scientists to actually migrate with the knowledge into the business world. He called himself a marketing anthropologist. And he has amazing stories about convincing Max and Spencer to put mirrors in their windows, in their front windows, so people see themselves in the mirror, so they stop and then they enter the store in bigger numbers, and many other tricks. So it's a relatively new thing that psychology migrates into business and actually changes things. So if you leverage these tools, you will be in the pioneers. It's still a new thing in business. Okay, our fourth bias for today. I'm running forward. We don't have much time. Anchoring effect. This one is one of the first to be discovered. As I said, Danica Hanneman and Amy Tversky in the late 60s, early 70s, discovered few products, few effects, few biases, as we call it, Danica Hanneman won Nobel Prize in economics in 2002. Amos Tversky died just a few years before. So he devoted his prize to the memory of Amos Tversky. So this is one of the first works by Danica Hanneman and Amos Tversky. Imagine that you're entering a department store and they offer you a Campbell soup, which is a usual, regular, routine product, nothing special. And you even have a small discount on it. Instead of 89 cents, 79 cents. In some other branches of the department store, they don't give you any discounts and they limit the number of the cans that you can take home. And of course, the research question was, what scenario sells more cans, more capable soups? Is it the one with the discount, which makes sense? Or is it the one with the limit, which is a bit strange, right? And as you can guess, the one on the right worked better. How better? Remember that this is the important thing in behavioral science. How better it worked? It worked twice as much because average customer in the left scenario took home 3.3 cans of Campbell soup. On the right scenario, it was twice as much, 7 cans of Campbell soup. And let me remind you, those are the 70s. You have no reason to take home 7 anchoring effect. Anchoring effect is this is what happens when our Homer Simpson, the autopilot, needs to decide numerical decision, any kind of numerical decision. Again, evolutionary speaking, we don't have good practice to work with numbers. Think about it. Many thousand years ago, we had no need to process big numbers. We needed to compare those sheep to those sheep and realize that this pack is bigger, right? And this one smaller, or the mountain on the right and the mountain on the left. And this one is easier to climb. But we had no need to operate with numbers like here. How many cans should I take home? He searches for an anchor. He searches for a number in the near area, and he starts from the number. So let's illustrate that with our current scenario. On the one on the left, people saw the Campbell soup. On the back of their mind, unconsciously, this is an unconscious process, they started to calculate how many Campbell soups should they take home. So they start from 0 because there are no anchors, right? 1, 2, let's take 3 just to be safe. And this is the 3.3 average that consumers took home. On the right scenario, people started from 12. So how many cans should I take home? 12? That's a crazy number. Who takes 12 cans home? 10, that's still too many. 8, 9, okay, let's stop on 7. So you feel like you cut it in half the original number, but in fact, you're taking home twice as much as if you would take without the anchor of 12 cans. This is why big chains put numbers on the top of the product. 2 plus 1, 4 for special price, right? Limited to 2 units per person, etc., etc., etc. This is a classic use of anchoring effect. Your internal Homer Simpson won't be able to decide a number without an anchor. So you can use an anchor to manipulate the decision. So if you sell things, you want to put a high anchor. So it will pushes the all discussion. If you want to put the low anchor, drag the all discussion lower. Works. Let me give you a real life example of anchoring. So this is one of my clients. It's it's a digital company again. They offer their clients 3 different plans. Remember, I forced them to make it 3 plans. It was 5 before. No good. Choice paralysis. So they choose the 3 essential plans: $8, $16, $24. And one of the numbers here served is the anchor. Is it 8? Is it 16? Is it 24? Think about it 2 seconds before I show you the answer. What number on the screen serves as an anchor for the decision making by the customers, by the client? So those of you who voted for 16 made a mistake. I guess this is the first mistake that you are making today. And let me explain why. It's not like you're wrong, you're answering right the wrong question. I asked what number on the screen is the anchor. You answering a different question. What number they want us to click on? And you're right, they want us to click on 16. But 24, this is the anchor that will push toward 16. What a great deal. It's not an expensive one, right? Because there are 24. So it's a good price in the middle. This is how you can use anchoring to manipulate the perception of price. Nothing in our life is absolute. Everything is relative. So if you put 24, 16 sounds as a good price. If you take off 24, out of sudden 16 became the most expensive option. More people will choose 8 instead of 16. This is a classic anchoring. It's such a common that it has his own name. That kind of anchoring called the decoy effect. When you put an extra option on the table just to manipulate the choices between the other options. So you don't even want them to choose the anchor. It's just to manipulate the other options. Let me show you an example, another example from the economist.com. Maybe the most significant economic newspaper in the world. So as you can see here, this is from the first book by Dan Ariely from 2008. It's an actual screenshot from the economist.com website. I know it's hard to believe, but this is how the web looked like back then. So this is the pricing page on the economist.com of 2008. And as you can see here, there are 3 packages. Digital only for $59. The last one, combo, print and digital for $125. And in the middle, you have print only option. And the interesting question is, how should they price the middle option? If they have the limit, they have the 59 limit minimum for digital only and the maximum combo for $125, how should they price the middle option to maximize their profits? Think about it for a second, and let me show you what they actually did, what they actually done. 125, exactly the same. Why would someone choose print only if he can get for the same price print and digital? And you are right. No one never choose the middle option, but it was a decoy, which made the last option look so damn good. How can we know? Because we saw the statistics. On the left, you can see how people choose when you have the middle option. 16% choose digital only, 84% choose the combo, because it's a great deal, right? You can have only print for the same price, or you can have both. If you take off the middle option, which for economists makes no sense, out of sudden, it almost flipped. Most of the people prefer the digital only option. Clients or the visiting clients prefer the 125 option. So you put an extra option in the middle, no one chooses but you change the proportion between the other options. This is a clever usage of anchoring. The one which called the decoy effect. Usually, most of the effects has few applications. In each one of them has his own name. We are psychologists, we have name for everything. So don't worry, you don't have to remember the name. Just remember the principle. Remember that when you other numbers, and people will decide differently. Framing effect. Also classics, also early 70s, Nemusversky, become very famous in communication studies. Let me tell you an example of framing effect. So imagine that you're entering a grocery store, your beloved grocery store, and you want to buy some yogurt. The 20% fat option or 80% fat free option. And you're gonna make a decision in a matter of seconds, right? Because it's automatic decision. So what do you think? What most of the people will buy? What most of the people actually bought it when it was an actual choice in the store? You are right. Most of the people prefer 80% fat free, but it's exactly the same yogurt. There is no difference between 80% fat to 80% fat free. It's exactly the same. It's just opposite way to say exactly the same, right? If you have 80% fat free, it means that you have 20% fat. And still, people have strong preference towards to 80% fat free. Why? Because of the framing. So let's define framing. The way you present the information many times are much more important than the information itself. So in other words, from another angle, you can manipulate the behavior of the client, of the customer, by the way you present them the information. So if you present it in a favorable way, you will achieve one result. If you present it in another way, you will achieve completely different results, like with the yogurt here. Let me show you a very American example on the framing. So it's exactly the same truck, Ford truck, and you can sell it by two different ways of selling exactly the same information. You can say this is 22 miles per gallon fuel economy, and those who bought or who buying, who interested in such a truck, they know that this is a good consumption. It was a good consumption. Matter that this class of cars isn't about fuel economy. Those are monsters who drink a lot of fuel, but it doesn't matter, because if you're interested in this truck, so this family of cars that you're checking in, so you will buy more Fords because it's best in class. This is a framing. This is a matter of framing. Think of newspapers in your country that belongs to different fractions, right or left. On the same morning, you open two newspapers, the same objective reality, completely different framing. Here's disaster, here's achievement. Here, only bad actors in politics, here, good actors in coalition or opposition, etc., etc. Framing is a very powerful tool in communicating everything, especially business offers. So this was the fifth effect for today. Six, power of free. We started with it, right? Let's recall what we started with. So they offer you a choice between Lindor chocolate for 15 cents and Hershey Kiss for $1. Most of the people for 1 cent, apologies. Most of the people prefer the Lindor because it's a better deal. But once we make a discount, 1 cent, so it's a 14 cents Lindor and a free Hershey Kiss, most of the people prefer the free Hershey Kiss. Why? Because power of free. Power of free is a very important fact, not because it's strong. It's not such a strong like the other effects. choice paralysis, framing, endowment, the other effect much stronger. But why power of free is so important? Because today, in 2023, your main challenge will be getting the attention of your client in the first place. We have so much attention scarcity. We we bombarded the environment bombarding us with different pieces of information. Your phone, your computer, your watch, your screen at home, your screen at the bus, at the subway is just too much information. So it's very hard to just get the attention of your client. And power of free gonna be your superpower in getting the attention of your client. Why? Again, evolutionary, we cannot resist paying attention to free stuff, to free Hershey Kiss. Why? Again, we benefit from it many thousand years ago, and still we carry the same software. So even today, you cannot resist paying attention to free stuff. After you saw it, you can decide not to follow, but you almost for sure will see it, will pay attention to it. So when you try to catch the attention of your client, you will use power of free, and then you will use all the rest of the effects to actually work with the attention. But you need to catch the attention for the first place. And this is power of free is what he is about. And the last bias for today, unfortunately, authority bias. Authority bias, the easiest way to think about authority bias is to imagine the last commercial for toothpaste that you saw recently. It's exactly the same for almost 100 years. Someone with a really white smile telling you that this is the best toothpaste in the world. And usually they also wear a white coat like a doctor, right? Like a physician. And it says in huge letters that this is an actor, it's not an actual physician. And still they continue to advertise in that way. Why? Because it works. It works because of the way our memory reconstruct ideas, reconstruct memories. After 2 weeks, after you saw these commercials, 2 weeks later, you want to remember why you remember, but this is the best toothpaste in the world. You just know it. Why? Because your memory made alignment between the message and the authority. Why authority? Because of the very white smile, because of the white coat, because of the voice of the actor. All those signs of authority were aligned with the message, and you will remember the message as more reliable later on. This is why it's so important to use any kind of authority to leverage your own brand. It could be a bank name of the bank. Banks has a lot of authority. They invest a lot to build the authority. It could be a fancy name of the university or a fancy name of a professor or something. Any kind of authority will help you to increase the perceived valuability, perceived reliability of your brand. Even if it's about your CV, you can put logos of companies that you were intern in if they are famous companies. So you will leverage the authority of those brands to your benefit. Those are 7 biases that we wanted to learn today. So let me quickly recap what we learned today. Reciprocity effect. When one of the sides in the relationship making a surprising gesture, the other side feels strong motivation to be involved, to be engaged. Choice paralysis. Too many options is too bad for our Homer Simpson. So narrow down options. Let me give you a rule of thumb. If you are operating in physical world, in the actual world, you sell gems, coffee, cars, doesn't matter, anything tangible. Try not to exceed 6 options. 6 gonna be your maximum. After 6, you're probably gonna lose clients because of choice paralysis. If you work on the digital world, don't give your clients more than 3 options, because in the digital environment, it's much harder to maintain attention. So 3 gonna be your maximum to avoid choice paralysis. And the paradox of choice on the top of that, they're gonna be more satisfied when you provided them less options. Endowment effect, when you feel a sense of ownership, when your actual owner or someone gives you on a feel of ownership, you will overestimate the value of it. Anchoring effect, our internal Homer Simpson have no good mechanism to calculate numbers, to compare numbers. So he searched for an anchor. If you put it an anchor before the decision, you will affect the final decision. Framing effect, the way you present the information, much more important than information itself. Power 3, you're superpowered in the world with attention scarcity and authority bias, which is the easiest way to give more perceived value, perceived reliability to your brand. I hope that it was interesting enough, that your curiosity is operating now, that you wonder what else you can learn from behavioral economics. Those are 3 books that I suggest start with if you are interested. The one on the left, Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely, one of the biggest names in behavioral economics, student of Danica Hanneman. This is the first book by Dan Ariely. He wrote it another 6 since then, and this one remains the best. So it's a good place to start, Predictably Irrational. Decoded was written by advertisement vet who went to do for a PhD in psychology, and after that he wrote a book about psychology and advertisement. Very good place to start for that kind of interest. And The Art of Thinking Clearly, it's a collection of 50 biases. So today we learned 7 biases. The Art of Thinking Clearly has 50 chapters, short chapter, a chapter for a bias. So imagine what you can do with 50 biases. It's unbelievable what you can do with so many tools. This is my email. Thank you very much for listening. I really, really appreciate if you write me any questions, any thoughts. Please be my guest. I love to hear from the students. Usually, at least some students from the class write examples of questions. I will answer you as quick as possible. Thank you very much. I'm staying here. Those of you who want to ask anything, I'm here.
Thank you, Alex. It was a very interesting session, intriguing for us as well. And the way you have covered all the 7 biases within, the limited time we had in our hand, with examples explaining each of those biases clearly. I think I have learned from the session. Wonderful session, Alex. Thank you. And now is the time I would request all the students who are over here, if you have any questions pertaining to Alex's session, please ask them before, and then we'll move over to your questions regarding UPS and the university, please. So the floor is open. Please post your questions in Q&A box if you have any questions. So maybe by the time students are thinking, Alex, I have one question. Why have you chosen these 7 biases? Are they very common, or are they the one, on which most of the work has happened, or what was the reason for choosing these 7 biases which we have learned today?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Thank you for that. The real world, very messy. In the laboratory, you can split different effects to isolate, right? So you can try to operate, to manipulate only choice paralysis or only endowment effect. In the real life, it always will be some kind of mix of different effects. Each one of them pushes to different direction many times. So it's very important to be able to recognize significant power in this situation, and to be able to, first of all, to recognize it, that a specific logical power, psychological bias, psychological effect is taking place now, and then to leverage that to whatever the view, the easiest to actually recognize in the very, very messy commercial business world. There are more sophisticated ones, but it requires much more studying and maybe professional outlook to actually realize that you have psychological component in it. So those are the easiest to recognize in a massive business challenges.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for answering this question very comprehensively. We have Bharat Verma from our student who's asking
Yes.
a question in option paralysis. What about scenario of only option versus few options?
So that's a great question also. There is a tension, an actual psychological tension between two different effects. One of them is choice paralysis, which you know already. Too many is bad, but there is another effect, which is exactly the opposite, the wealth effect. What the wealth effect means that we tend to buy more when there are more, right? So if there are many apples, you will buy more apples. If there are just few apples, you will buy less apples. And there is an actual tension between those two effects because many sells more, but many options sells less. So it's always the play, the interplay between giving your client sense of control, not forcing him just to one option, but not overwhelming him with too many options. So a part of luxury, which is a different conversation. So a part of luxury products, you always prefer to give your client sense of control, that he has at least few options, but not too many, because then you fail to choice paralysis. In luxury products, it's a different story. There, sometimes it's better to present just one very expensive bag, just one color, nothing else. But this is a different process. It's a different evolutionary process.
Great, thank you. Just wondering, Alex, if I may, ask very layman, simple question that was going on in my mind. So economics, we normally, categorize into microeconomics, macroeconomics. So in behavioral economics, do we have such kind of categorization as well?
That's also a good question. The reason we call it behavioral economics is historical reason. No one wanted to listen to psychologists because you pay to psychologist that he will listen to you, right? So when psychologists discover those ideas, no one actually listened. So Thaler, the economist who was first economist to actually listen to them, popularized the knowledge. So it became famous as behavioral economics, although it's actually psychology. So it changes today economics, mostly microeconomics, because it's about a personal choice, because it's about consumer behavior. But there are models that are already very, very fresh models, very, very young, if you wish, that incorporate behavioral thinking into macro models. It's very, very difficult because it's a chaotic behavior. So it's an interplay between the chaos theory, psychology, complex theory, and economics. It's exciting area, very young, and very, very exciting.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Alex, Prashant is asking how behavioral psychologists change the game of corporate world. How effective are these? And can you give him or all of us some famous example, a company opted and it changed their game totally? Alex, are you?
There are many examples. Let me give you just a few. Can you hear me? Are you hearing me? Hello?
Yes, yes. Now we can hear you.
Yes? Okay. Okay, let me try to answer. Something happened with the connection. Let me give you a few examples. So let's think about IKEA, who gave you an opportunity to construct your furniture you own. This is an actual psychological effect, IKEA effect. Their own appreciate more things that we build by our hands. So they change the market by IKEA effect. Or another example, think let's talk about Starbucks coffee, that they put your name on the cap, right? After they put your name on the cap, you will appreciate much more the coffee. And they made a revolution in the world of coffee, consumer coffee shops, just by packaging it as something special.
Great. We'll move to the next question, Alex. The next question is by Manisha. Is it possible to conclude that to sell well is to think in terms of your target consumers' benefit only? Does it also convey human self-centered behavior? Oh,
So let me share with you behind the curtain piece of data. The original title of this lecture is how to manipulate your clients. I changed it into how to leverage it, because I believe that in the long term, you have to be aligned with your client's interests. You may win in the short term, you may manipulate in the short term, but if you want to win in the long term, you have to align with their interests. So those behavioral tools should help you to align more with the interest of your client. It doesn't matter if it's about helping them to make a decision, which is natural help, or about pushing them towards the right deal, but it has to be in their interest. Otherwise, you will have a quick win and then they will just go to the competitor. So certainly from the point of view of your client, not just because of psychology.
great. So next question is from Tushar. Will the choice paralysis bias vary from region to region? If yes, then can you give an example of how it will vary?
That's a very good question. Let me give you an example, which is not exactly choice paralysis, but I think it will be very interesting, especially to you. When you ask when you show to kids a picture of a cow, milk, and grass, and you ask Western kids and Eastern kids, for instance, Israeli kids and Indian kids, to circle the two things that have something in common. So kids in the West will circle cow and milk. Kids in the East will circle cow and grass. So as you go to the East, as far you go to the East, so the thinking became more holistic and less segregated. Again, it's a culture, it's history, it's many factors. So in some way, when you design for the East, you should think more holistic. So it's not just about how many choices you have, it's about the story you're telling. It's about how each piece of the puzzle interplays with the other pieces. So there is difference, but you have a lot of psychological gold to mine even before the cultural differences. So there is a difference. And if you want, we can elaborate about it later. Just write me down. But there are enough very powerful and surprising things that you can do even before the cultural differences between different Homo sapienses.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. The next question is from Ayush. Are there any emerging trends or new research findings in the field of behavioral economics that we as students of business should be aware of?
Yes, a lot. I mean, it's hard to make an actual choice. Okay, let me say that there are few main directions of findings that you should be aware of. There are findings about, let's say, internal decision making, how the business itself make decisions, how your team make decisions, how your boss make decisions, how your company decides what option plan, stock option plan, issue their workers. So this is a one direction, very important direction. And if you're interested about that, so it's Adam Grant, Katie Mickman, and other researchers. There is another direction, which is about consumer behavior. And there you can find things like anchoring for pricing, and you can find things like endowment effect, etc. And the last direction is about product design, which is interplay between design, psychology, and economics. So you can call it user experience, you can call it product design, you can call it the design of everyday things. Design thinking, it doesn't matter what vocabulary you use. It's how to build things for irrational users, services or products, doesn't matter. So those are three different directions that you should choose which one is like the most interesting for you, and then to dig deeper, because there are many, many findings every year.
Thanks, Alex. There's one more question from Bharat. In anchoring effect, why can't we combine the both options by saying the discount will be offered and it will be on X number of units? Isn't it better selling option?
Yes, first of all, yes, okay, but you need to keep your message as simple as possible. You don't need me for that, right? That's like the basics of economics. Keep it simple and stupid, right? So you don't want to become too complex, too complicated. So you have to sacrifice. You need to choose, to make a choice, one main thing that you want to achieve, and to phrase or frame in a way that will target this particular need. Because when you have a very complex message, most of the Homer Simpsons will avoid you. It's just too complex for them.
You get into choice paralysis. It becomes, if you have too many choices. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Great. So I've learned a few from your session today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure and honor.
Thank you. I think questions regarding your sessions are over. We have no more questions, Alex. So thanks you, both of you from Joel, Rachel and Alex, for joining us today. It has been a pleasure. I'm sure our students have gathered a lot of nuggets of wisdom and they had their own aha moment. I had mine. So we look forward to, I may also take this opportunity to invite you over here at UPS. Whenever you are in this part of the world, please feel free to visit us. It will be lovely to host you both. And once again, on behalf of UPS, on behalf of our students, on behalf of the School of Business team, we thank both of you, Alex and Rachel. Thank you. To the students, it is my request, if you have any questions regarding UPS, you may please now ask those questions in Q&A box. Okay, so we have started with Sneha. Sneha's option is my UPS offer letter mentioned that Sneha, regarding scholarship and registration, we have our colleague Anuj online with us from the administration team, and he will soon respond to you. Thank you. In the meanwhile, you are asking questions. Let me also share with you a couple of links which may come handy to you. I have just posted on the chat our School of Business YouTube link, our School of Business LinkedIn link, and our School of Business Instagram link. Also a link about the placement highlights at School of Business, about our programs and scholarships. You may visit, please, these links. It will give you more information about School of Business programs, about what is happening at School of Business, and do follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram so that you can come to know what is happening at your school. Khushbu, there is no uniform or dress code for the college, but we do expect all our students to dress professionally, being part of one of the best management school. We would always encourage you to dress professionally, but there is no such uniform or a dress code. It's a formal, dress code, professional dress code, which we expect from our students. So someone has asked that should we come on with laptop on the first day of the college itself? It's entirely your prerogative. We would always urge that you have a laptop. The UPS entire university campus is Wi-Fi enabled. You can use your laptop. It will always help you if you have a device at your disposal to do your study beyond the classrooms. And I think most of you millennials would have your laptops and your iPads with you. So there is no compulsion. It is your own prerogative, but it would be better if you have a laptop or an iPad at your disposal when you are over here. Dr. Prasu, may I request you if you may take few questions which are there in Q&A box. In the meanwhile, I will check Anuj presence also. I think he unfortunately got disconnected.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
So what is the question? When are we expected to receive login ID and passwords for initial online registration? I think you would have received a mail regarding registration till now, Tushar. If not, then just give me a minute.
Sorry, Dr. Kasum, I think I have just asked Anuj to log in back to the session. Sneha, my colleague from administration team is joining to the session and he will answer to you. Yes, Anuj has joined, so I'll request Anuj to take both the questions which are there on the chat box right now. So dear participants, I have also shared a link on our international connects with you. If you want to learn more about UPS School of Business International Partnerships, UPS International School Outreach, you can see on this link, you will see what are international connects. I'm thankful that you have all invested today, almost an hour and 20 minutes. We are sharing a feedback link with you. I request all of you to please give your feedback before you leave the session today. The session feedback link is shared with you on the chat. While we are answering questions, I would request all of you to please give 1 minute to share your feedback with us. If you have any query regarding your administration query, you can ask now. We have Mr. Anuj Sinha from administration team to answer your queries.
Yeah, registration will open from tomorrow onwards.
Great. Upasna is asking Dr. Prasum, is there a summer vacation after 6th to 10th July classes, or the classes will continue till first semester exam?
I think you have already done your summer vacation, so don't expect.
Upasna, there are no
So,
summer vacations. Once you are here from 6th of July, you will be here itself till, exams. Obviously, if there are national holidays, you'll get those according to, UPS policy. But the classes once start, and we urge all the students. Thanks, Upasna, for asking, because I wanted to share with all the students over here that please don't miss our classes. We are very stringent in terms of your class participation and your attendance, and there are no excuses for that. So we would request all of you, we would urge that you do your 100% attendance in your classes. There are a couple of questions which are coming on the administration side. I'm sure Anuj is taking them one by one. For scholarship questions, I have shared the scholarship link also. There was a question when we are expected to receive our login ID and password for initial online registration. Anuj has replied that we have shared the link and welcome kit with all the paid applicants. Dr. Prasum, this question is for you. Shivang is asking, as per the timetable received from the college, it is mentioned that some classes will be held at Bidoli campus, but our program location is in Kandoli. You want to take this question, please?
yeah, initially we are having some classes in Bedoli, and then after that we will have classes at Kandoli campus.
Right.
These are two campuses in very close approach. So we just wanted to expose you with the facilities at Vidoli campus as well as at the Kandoli campus.
There's one thing which I've observed, Dr. Prasum, as the class commencement date is coming near, I think there are a lot of questions on the administration side we have today. But it's good. I would encourage all the students to please ask and clarify all your queries so you're comfortable and you have no doubts in your end. And that's the reason why we have invited Mr. Anuj Sinha from our administration team today. We anticipated there would be a lot of questions from this end. So please feel free to ask as many questions or any doubts which you have. Myself and Dr. Prasum will respond to any academic query or any query related to School of Business. If you have any queries regarding the school, regarding program, please feel free to ask us. I see the students are staying back. It is my request to all the students to kindly share your feedback about today's session with us. I have shared a link with you. I am resharing the link of feedback form. This will help us to make the future such sessions more meaningful. So I have just shared the feedback form link. Please take a minute out. It will hardly take 30 seconds to a minute to give your feedback. So there is question from Sneha Sinha. Will School of Business help us get an internship during the course? Of course, yes, Sneha. We have a parallel career services team, which will help our students for internship, for placements. You will get all the assistance which is required from the career services team. And with the career services team, there is also an edge team which will help you in creating your profile, in preparing yourself for your group discussions, for your personal interviews. So personality development is also going to be there. From the edge side, there would be a profiling which will be done. You would be requested to submit your details, and then specific faculty at edge will work with you for soft skill development, for personality development, and to prepare you for your internship and placements. So there would be, of course, student internship and placement opportunities, which the school will provide you along with the support from career services team. However, to clear such student internship opportunities and placement opportunities is equally dependent on our students as well, how you perform in those selection rounds and phases. Dr. Prasum, there is a question from Vinay. Sir, where we have to report on the first day?
At Bidoli campus.
Vinay, at Bidoli campus, there's a building, MAC building. You may report there at the time which is mentioned. I don't see any pending questions. I'm sure our students would have given feedback. If not, please take out a minute of yours and visit the link which I've shared on the chat and give your feedback for the session. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Prasoom, Mr. Anuj, for joining us today. And most of all, thank you to all the students who have taken out time and have indulged themselves in this great session today. We look forward to see you soon at the campus. Have a nice evening to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you. Bye bye.